Good afternoon, and welcome to today's VetNet Entrepreneurship Track presentation, where we will be having a conversation with Randy Hetrick. Randy, welcome. Always good to see you. Last time we saw you, we were down in Charlotte. For those of you who don't know Randy, Randy is the creator of the suspension trainer, perhaps the most prolific piece of exercise equipment in history, and the founder of TRX, one of the world's leading training brands. Over the past 3 decades, Randy has built a record of unique accomplishments, including a collegiate athlete, 14-year Navy SEAL officer, bootstrap entrepreneur. So for those of you EBV grads who are here, he's been in your shoes, multi-patent inventor, and growth company CEO, whose company has earned multiple placements on the rosters of the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies and Outside Magazine Best Places to Work. He earned his bachelor's from the University of Southern California, a master's from the Naval Postgraduate School at Monterey, and an MBA from Stanford University's Graduate School of Business, where he's also a contributing lecturer on entrepreneurship, branding, and leadership. Randy has also added television to his resume as the host of Spike TV's new reality series, Sweat Inc. So Randy, welcome. Always a pleasure to have you. We heard a little bit about you in the introduction. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your company? I know a lot of these folks had heard, and had heard this at your speech at EBV National Conference, but some other folks may be watching this, and if you could just fill them in a little bit on TRX and what you do. Sure.
Well, when I listen to that bio, it must mean that I'm getting on in years. That's the first thing that strikes me. TRX, was my pivot into a second chapter. It started as a harness that I created as a SEAL to train while we were deployed, nothing more, nothing less. And then it got popular with the guys in the squadron. And so when I finally left service and went back to business school, I was thinking about business. I started getting a lot of interest from the coaches at Stanford about this crazy contraption. And, when you're at a place thinking about business and you got a lot of guys who are smart cats telling you why this would be great for their athletes, you start to think, maybe there's a business in this. And that's what I did. And so about a year after I finished my MBA, I launched this little ratty startup out of my garage. And, it took the better part of a year, have all the pesky little things that you need in life to start a business with, but that they don't teach you at Stanford Business School. A little place to put them together, some insurance, a little bit of inventory, a little bit of working capital to get started with, and off we went. And, this year, which is our 11th year, I guess, technically in the market, if you count my first year as, myself and my dog Blue as a year, this is our 11th year in the market, and we'll be right around 50 million in revenue this year. We employ about 100 people, and we focus primarily on North America, but are fairly broadly distributed across the world. And our goal is to become the world's first great multi-domain training brand. When you think about training for a thing, the next pop into your head 5 years from now, if we've done our work right, is, man, I bet TRX has something for me. So that's sort of where we sit. Great. Thanks, Randy. DeAndre, we'll start with you. As I mentioned earlier, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background. We know you obviously are EBV Purdue by your hat, but if you could tell us a little bit about your service background, a little bit about your business, what you're looking to do, and then we can get into your specific question.
Sure, thank you. Randy, again, thank you so much, man, for making yourself available. This means a lot, as you already know. Yeah. For the Greenies, we have much to learn, man, so thank you. I served with 5th Special Forces Group, Randy. I was a support element, part of the Legion battalion, and of course, wherever they went, we went. And I tell people I didn't join the Army to jump out of airplanes or, to go alongside with these crazy guys. I joined to finish school. I played football in college, but just so happens I went to airborne school, and I was stationed at Fort Campbell, 5th Group. And from there on, because of my love for athletics and just my ability, I was tagged onto a team. And our captain was killed. Captain I don't even want to talk about that, but he was taken out, and that was part of my coming onto the team full time. And from there, life changed for me, man. I got out in '05, did a couple years reserves, medically retired, PTSD, and currently now, man, managing my life, also managing opening a business that is a reflection of who I am, my scars as a veteran, and the challenges I went through. So we're opening a cycle studio. I teach group cycle classes. Those 268 pounds, lost an unforeseen amount of weight, started teaching, and I got a huge following. And I've partnered up with a gentleman here locally that rides professionally outside. He and his father have been riding for years. And so we're bringing two aspects to the fitness world. One, the performance indoor cycling, which is not offered quite yet, with software that's going to be applied to that program. And of course, the indoor rhythm rides like the name of the company, Soul Cycle. Brandon, we also have this opportunity with the city of Baltimore. As you know, a lot of things have been in an uproar around here. And the new mayor is asking for new competitive programs, fitness programs, to be offered into the community. And we're one of the few that have created this opportunity where we could go in and be operating in all of their recreational centers, some 40+ recreational centers, with a competitive biking / TRX program. One that's going to expose the young kids to entrepreneurship. We'll have several young men who, or several men and women who have experience in starting businesses, but also have the passion for riding bikes or doing fitness. And we're also going to teach the kids how to build bikes and sell bikes. And so really my mission now, Randy, is to kind of follow and I'm not just saying this to brown nose, but follow the already formalized market in fitness, and to follow your lead and others like you who have started this thing, and not create anything new, but to make it grassroots. You have a lot of personal trainers and group fitness trainers that are trying to make their own edge. I'm more of a group fitness trainer, just personally because I love people, and I get my energy from people. But what we want to do is be able to at least say, hey, we know Randy, because that would be huge. Or even when we do open, we're planning to open in September in Maryland, in Baltimore. Free Will Fitness is the name of our studio. We will have the TRX aspect and the indoor performance biking aspect to it as well. So we'll have an actual studio for TRX. Now the cool thing about this too is that I'm through the vocational rehab program, so the VA is paying for all of our equipment, all of our tools, all of our fixtures. The only thing they won't pay for, of course, is the lease, which we don't have a problem getting. So all of the TRX equipment they're going to buy, all of the biking equipment they're going to buy. So if you could give me an idea how to specialize a program, I guess that's my question, to make it unique to the point where clients find it irresistible to be a part of. And that may be very vague because there's probably many ways to answer that question. But I think that's really an important question.
About it. I think, well, first of all, thanks for the service, man. I'm glad to hear that that you one, made it back, and then two, we're able to transcend the military experience, both the good and the bad.
Right.
And that you got a cool plan that you're excited about, because that, frankly, is a big deal, right? And
Right.
A lot of people wander around for a long time trying to find something they're passionate about. So that's, you're in a good place now, and that's terrific. I think there's a little bit of breaking up there, but I think I basically got the gist of what your big idea is, and I got a little bit of some of the extensions that you think about in the future. I think one thing that strikes me right off the bat is make sure that you're clear in your own mind, right, about everything happens in phases, and getting the sequence right with entrepreneurship. I mean, it's like an op, right? You get the sequence wrong on an op, and you could have had a great plan, but it all goes to hell if you don't hit the sequence right, down the checklist. And it's the exact same thing with a startup. So, you need to it's kind of a telescope microscope is one of the metaphors that I've heard, right? You really need to be able to focus in to the here and now with your microscope and get as granular as you can get in your own head about every single detail and how that's going to play out in the immediate term. Then you got to be able to pull back to the telescope view, right, and have a bigger, broader, more ambitious view of where you go down the line if your microscope plan, starts to materialize. And I can't tell whether you're talking or not.
I copy. I'm talking to my business partner. I have several fans, Randy. If you don't mind, you're actually on live on my Facebook profile. And so I have several people asking me questions. And so that's what that is all about. So you're, of course, loved all over the world, brother.
Yeah, so the business is called Primo, right? Is that right?
No, Free Wheel Fitness. www.freewheelfitness.net.
Oh, Freewheel. Okay, all right, I got it. So, and it's a hybrid. It's a spin studio concept matched also with strength training on the TRX, correct?
Exactly. And we also will have, Randy, I didn't mention, the rehabilitation aspect to it. My business partner has recently garnered about 15 therapists who are willing to pass on their clients to us after that 30-day stint with the insurance company. And so, no one's offering the dynamic fitness experience for the person that is still, that's healing from an injury. And so we would like to have some type of adaptive training aspect to both to everything we provide, our TRX, our indoor spin, so that we can have that all-inclusive measure for all of our clients. And I think that's really a market that no one has tapped into, and I know that's where the industry is headed with physical therapy.
Well, I tell you, DeAndre, I'd really like a couple of the things that you're bringing to the table. I mean, first of all, hey, as a vet, if you can get the VA to help defray your startup costs, man, you absolutely should, and that's great because that's an advantage that look, there are disadvantages of coming out of the military with PTSD, so you better take the advantages where you can get them too. And that reduces your risk significantly right off the bat. The second thing I like is the idea of integrating rehab, because I agree with you. It's still a weird de-link between a rehabilitative process and then you finish rehab, whether your therapist deems you well or whether your insurance, your number of insurance payable visits to your therapist run out, and so you just got to be well. There's a big drop off in adherence with people who have been going gangbusters during therapy, and then therapy ends and they regress, and that's because there isn't, to my knowledge, there hasn't been an approach that said, hey, let me take the handoff from the physical therapist and plug you into a sustainable, well-rounded, meaning some strength, some cardio, some flexibility, a program that can keep you going. And so I think it's a great place to position yourself, and it probably will allow you to draw from, as you build a little bit of awareness out there among the physical therapists that your service provides a continuation of their service. You probably can generate some pretty good word of mouth marketing, I would guess.
Randy, you just made my day. My business partner is on Facebook Live, and he's the one that came up with that concept. He was dad, and it brings everything full circle. We're headed in the right direction. So I don't want to take much more of your time. If you can just give me a shout out on Facebook to everyone that's there. Free Will Fitness, DeAndre Wells, Randy Hetrick. Randy, we appreciate your time and effort, man. Thank you for all that you do for veterans. Thank you for having the courage to be instinctive when you needed to work out. You were instinctive enough to start something out of nothing. And this is what I tell my clients. You know, all new life begins in dark places. And in order for you to start somewhere, there's going to be lack of data and lack of resources and knowledge to bring up what you're about to bring up. And that's what you've done. And so we want to follow that same model. So thank you, man.
Yeah, well, DeAndre, it's my pleasure, and I'll be interested to see. I'll definitely go on and check out your Facebook page and give you guys shout outs where I can. I think that you're off to something interesting, and you definitely got to focus, because the challenge with that model is going to be that it lends itself to a lack of focus, right? You could focus on the rehab side of the business, you could focus on the spinning side of the business, you could focus on, you know, the TRX. You're going to have to pull it together in a nice, tight, coherent package, and then really focus on nailing the local. I mean, like, before you the telescope view and big ambitions, you should really make it your business to become profitable, right, and successful in the Baltimore area. Because if you do those two things, what's then going to happen is you'll start to have the benefits of momentum, right? They call it inertia when you're sitting on your ass and you can't get going, but they call it momentum once you get going. And as soon as you start to build some of that in your local area, then there's going to be a word of mouth. You're going to, you know, that's going to be this halo that kind of helps lift you. And also, you're going to get people who will be more interested to say, hey, man, I'd love to bring this exact concept to my region, right? And you'll start to enlist others in your movement in a way that doesn't have you doing all the lifting. But all that only is possible if you get the sequence right initially and you generate some local success before you start, you know, trying to generate national success. That makes sense?
I appreciate that. It makes a whole lot of sense. I have your email, and I'll shoot you an email with our information. Once again, I don't want to take your time. I really appreciate it, man. And, again, your words of wisdom are well taken, and we are going to make some changes in Baltimore. Bro. You're going to hear about us real soon.
Yeah, well, I will do. And if I get out to Baltimore, which I do, I'll come try to look you guys up.
Please do. Please do. I'll send you my info, man. Appreciate it.
Man.
Well, thanks, DeAndre, for the great question, and thanks for sharing so much about your business idea and about you personally. That was great. Randy, what I'm going to do is I'll kind of do rapid fire with Jason Lipscomb, who his company is Organizational Talent Development. It doesn't look like him or his girlfriend have been able to join, so he provided 3 or 4 questions that I'll kind of go one by one. His first was, how did you or how do you successfully market your business as a veteran?
You broke up a little, Michael. Was it, how do I successfully market my business as a veteran?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that being a veteran is certainly beneficial, and my feeling about this has been interesting. I know there are SEALs that are out in the book world and run around sort of with their trident front and center. I chose to go a little differently because I think sometimes that being a veteran is a better asset when people find it out as the second order of information, rather than the first. So if one short answer would be, trade subtly on your veteran status, because just some things are best done subtly. And if you lead with it, you'll turn off some people, and other veterans might even look at you and go like, dude, really? But having said that, you earn your veteran status with service, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with integrating it into part of your story. So I would say that the best way to leverage your veteran status in your marketing is actually to tap into the networks that exist. For instance, right, the one that we're talking via right now, EBV is a great example of a network that becomes available to a vet that you can tap into, and you can leverage both word of mouth to spread your interest and information about your concept, and you can also leverage other experts who might know things specific, in specific areas or more general area, like I'm talking to you about today, entrepreneurship, that can be helpful. So leverage the network and trade subtly on your veteran status.
Thanks, Randy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type the questions out as well. So if you go to the left side of your screen at the top, there's a chat icon, Randy. It's a blue text box. If you want to click that, it'll open a text box on the right that'll have a conversation. And what I'll do is I will type the questions as well as say them, just so in case we break up. But the next question that Jason had was, how would you invest $2,500 in marketing your business? Jason has currently joined his local Chamber of Commerce, and his market is Lafayette, Indiana. I think you briefly hit on this with the previous answer.
I think, okay, I would have to understand a little bit more about Michael's business. Wait, is it Michael?
Jason.
We're also talking about. Oh, Jason. Okay, I'm seeing your chat. All right, yep. I got it. So I need to understand a little bit more about Jason's business before I could give it kind of an answer that would even hope to be useful.
Okay. No, that makes complete sense. As Mai just typed in, it's organization development. I guess we'll probably need more than just organization development to see exactly what he's looking to do, who he's marketing to, etc. So maybe what we'll do is we will go ahead and bypass that question for lack of information.
Well, I can take a stab at it, with the caveat that obviously the kind of business that somebody has is gonna affect how you go about marketing. But if it's organizational development and Jason is offering consulting services, $2,500, I think that probably the best way that he could do, I'll give him the same advice that I gave DeAndre, which is, start local, start very local. Particularly in a service business, or a studio business, in DeAndre's case, you're going to draw from the immediate local area. So if you have $2,500 to invest, you have to kind of think through how best to get your concept in front of as many eyeballs as possible in your local area. Because where $2,500 on a national stage, buys you a couple of seconds of coverage somewhere. On a local stage, actually $2,500 can go quite a way. I would guess that it would probably be at that budget level focused on local print advertising, but he might well be able to take $500, put together a nice flyer that talks about the services that he's. Then he can spend $100 and hire a kid to go out and deliver it to a reasonably well-researched set of that seem like good targets for him. So I would say probably local print and some handouts with that kind of.
Okay, thank you. I'm putting the next question up in the chat right now, but it is, what techniques did or do you use to reach the decision makers to present your product for an opportunity to sell?
All right, that's interesting. I certainly, when I brought the TRX to market, and actually it wasn't even named that at the time, it was called the Travel X, the Complete Portable Exerciser. Nobody knew what the heck that thing was or why you would ever use it. And so no one would give me a meeting initially. So I deployed something that I learned as a SEAL in reverse. Instead of counterinsurgency, I was trying to be an insurgent. And I would go and I would set up a meeting at the lowest level that would accept me, with a fitness manager in a particular facility, and I would go in and I would get on the phone and tell them, look, I need 30 minutes with your 10 best trainers and group fit instructors at your next in-service session with your staff. And in exchange, I'm going to rock their world, and then I'm also going to leave you with a couple of these straps that are the hottest, newest, coolest thing in fitness. And so I did that, and each time I would show up and I would, deliver. I would knock their socks off, very well rehearsed and well scripted presentation. And each time I would build, 2 or 3 or 4 interested potential champions inside a club. And the way that I got to the top decision makers, which is the question here, is that I focused on doing that over and over and over and over within a particular club. And at that point, I would have had enough little champions, if you will, or insurgents within that organization, call it 24-hour fitness or Equinox, any one of those, because I used the same technique over and over at each time I would go after a new chain. Eventually, you build enough internal champions that you let them carry the message up to the decision maker, who will then give you the pitch. So that's how I did it. Now, depending on your business, you've got to figure out how to use that same concept, which basically, is creating champions inside a larger organization, and then enticing those champions to get you the meeting with the decision maker who can ultimately, purchase your service or your goods.
Thank you. His final 2 questions are, what do you know now that you wish you knew then, and what would you have done differently given the resources you were limited to at the time?
Wow. Well, I could talk for hours about that one. So let's see. I'll have to figure out. There's an awful lot of stuff that I have learned via the School of Hard Knocks over the last 10 years. I think that I made a couple of mistakes that were pretty significant in their negative impacts. One, I would say, I'll give you one that involves a team and one that involves capital raising. I think that, from a team leadership perspective, I certainly had an adjustment when I went from, an elite commando world in which people don't say they're going to do things that they don't intend to do. And I found that, on the outside, that actually was much more common than I would like to admit. I routinely ran into people who would tell you they're going to do something with no intent to actually do it. And so I probably wasn't skeptical enough early on. And then the other thing, the big mistake that I made in building my teams was that early on, I think I didn't focus enough on really diligently laying out specific and measurables in terms of performance for my teammates. I ran the very highly delegated leadership style, and I would say probably in terms of concrete deliverables, and that doesn't end up working all that well because it makes performance of a team if you don't have very concrete deliverables for each respective member to shoot for. And it also implies a little bit of a lack of clarity about what's really important to your business. And I think that I had some lack of clarity around what was the most important, 2 or 3 things to the business at any given moment. And I certainly benefited from taking more time and focusing on measurable, actionable, specific goals. For you guys who want to look at a good model for this, there's a model called the SMART model, and look that up. It's specific, measurable. I can't remember the other 2, the other 2 that go into that, but it provides a little framework to structure deliverables, and I think it's a good one because I didn't do that enough. The other mistake I made in raising capital was I had a real capital, and at a point along the way, I made the decision to bring institutional capital in, and much that was going to change the nature of the business. And I think probably in retrospect, I would not have done that in the way I continued to bring in common equity rather than some of the, some of the preferential, loaded capital that you get from investors. So there's a couple of that I wish I had known then that I.
Great, thank you. And just for the group, SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So those are the SMART goals. Go. Absolutely. Alejandro, do we have you? Here? If you could go ahead and unmute your microphone.
Yep, I'm up.
Okay.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your service history, where you went to EBV, etc., your business, and then you can get into your question. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. All right, my name's Alex Ramirez. I am a defense contractor, owner of Universal Spartan. We are sourcing solution for the right product, right reason, at the right price. Defense contractor, which provides tactical, IT, industry, medical equipment, procurement, and support solutions for the federal government and defense industry. We ensure mission success, operational efficiency, and cost savings for our customers. So what I mostly do is I do all the defense contracting for all federal, state, and local governments. And as a matter of fact, I had a contract for TRX. I was trying to work with you all, but I think the contract closed in time. But I went to EVB. EVB is probably the #1 solution that took me where I was at. I first started out retired military, 22 years, Ranger. I went, just like Randy was talking about, I went with the whole focus of, hey, look, I am gonna do this like an operation, and I'm going to be success. And once I get out of the military, I'm going to be successful and all that. And it didn't work out. It was a lot of hard knocks. So what I did, I started selling stuff online, military stuff. And then Ted, who was the founder of AVB, he told me, he's like, Alex, he's like, I saw that you want a contract with the Navy SEALs. Why are you, doing the grunt work of selling all your items online? Why don't you just stick with federal contracts? And I was like, you know what? I looked back at all my financial statements, and I saw that the Navy SEALs was, of course, my number one buyer. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So that's what I did. I got into doing contracts with the federal government. It's been doing great. But again, it's just like Randy was saying, it's a lot of hard knocks. A lot of hard knocks out there. You win some, you lose some, but you just got to keep on trying. The main thing is, I just want to just, kind of just real quick introduction of myself, and then, trying to find out more information about the business world that you have.
Well, Alex, that's in government contracting, because man, I've been at this for 10 years in the government contracting space, and we're still working on trying to figure out how to do it. But it's it's definitely a business that offers a ton of opportunity, and as long as you've got you got skin that's thick enough and nerves that are calm enough, you can make a pretty good living in that space. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So as we think about your business, what are the things that you're that you're grappling with? Like what are some of the challenges that you're trying to figure out?
My number one challenge is because my business is dealt with like sales representatives. So what I have is I have different sales representatives all over. Right now, I mean, I'm exporting and everything, so I have them all over the world. The problem that I have is because I take care of everything. I straight up tell them, I said, look, guys, I need contact. You give me the contacts, you get
Hey, Alex, you're cutting in and out a little bit. Is there any way you can get a better connection?
Let me try something else. Okay,
Sorry,
what about now?
There you go.
Yeah,
I guess.
Is that better?
that's much better, Alex. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, no, so my number one is because my business is set up, my business model is I can do my business anywhere I go, and I have sales reps everywhere. I don't have any employees. It's all sales reps. I have them all over the world and international and national. But my hardest problem is trying to, like you were talking about delegating, is I'm delegating these subcontractors, these sales reps, independent contractors, and kind of grassing them all together, which they're all over the place. So I really don't know what they're doing. So I know that I probably need to have some kind of like meetings with them, maybe every week or something like that, which I haven't been doing. So I know that's one thing that I should be doing. So that really is my number one heartache. And then my number two, of course, is just trying to win more contracts, trying to stay on top of the contracts, making sure they're successful so the end user comes back next time. That's it.
So is tracks in a specific area? Because that'll help me understand a little bit better. I mean, are you like what's your advantage that you're bringing to the table to compete?
You said what's the advantage that I'm bringing to the table?
Well, what's your point? You know, people talk a lot about points of differentiation. So, what's the key point of differentiation that makes me go with you versus some other guy?
Okay, so so again, there's a lot of defense contractors out there, like you know, ADS, Darley Defense. I mean, numerous out there. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin. So my differentiate is actually the hard work that I put into the performance. Once I get in there and I do the performance is where I differentiate. Now there's nothing before that. So my hard work is I go in there and I'll win a contract, you know, at a lower price and somebody else is probably going to win it. Then after that, then I do the performance based on, you know, what I do, how fast I ship it, you know, and then I make sure that they're happy. And then after that, usually those other contracts come from that. So it's from that past performance.
So you don't have any preferential advantage, right? You're not service disabled or you know, minority owned, or like, I mean, do you have any of those? Because I'm not a government contracting expert, but I'm just trying to get at, you know, the key elements that make you different and better as a prospective contract partner.
So some of the other contracts that I win is because I have a service disabled and also a minority owned business. So there is a lot of differentiates on that, but there's nothing to say that, you know, another contractor doesn't have the same thing, the other set aside that I do. So there's no, I mean, by looking at it, there's really no way to differentiate between, you know, from a different contractor than to mine, other than just the past performance. That's it.
Well, okay. So, but you do have so you've got a service disabled 8A minority status.
Yep.
So there's going to be certain All right. Well, that lets you, that gives you one thing that some other dude doesn't have, which is a set aside preference that you can focus on, and I think so that's something that you're going to want to make sure that you market well, because if by using you, I can tap set aside money that a command has to deploy by statute, then that's one point of differentiation. That's certainly not going to be sufficient, but it's going to be helpful, right?
Yeah.
Then I think that the second, just based on what you're telling me, I think the second thing that I heard is, there's big defense contractors out there, and ADS is a classic example of a contract holder. We know what they bring. They bring scale. They bring big sales force. They bring a lot of reach. What they don't bring is boutique level of service, which is kind of what you started to touch on.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that you can really focus on as your unique points of differentiation is, one, you've got the set aside preferences from the structure of your business, and then two, you're going to offer a boutique level of service. So what you're going to have to market there is your results, right? And if you can put together a set of kind of case studies, if you will, and that makes it sound too highfalutin. If you can put together a few nice, tight success case studies where you delivered for a client, it goes all in one document that is basically a handout that shows me, okay, here's where you came from. Here are the range of products and services that are in your wheelhouse. Here are your your unique advantages in terms of being an 8A minority-owned, service-disabled veteran contract holder. And then lastly, the success stories that you've done for other businesses. That to me is a nice, tight little package that when you add in kind of the high level value proposition that you have, you start to get, I think, and get my around why I hire you over somebody else to help me sell my product.
Yeah, Roger.
Alex, any other questions?
Your customers,
okay.
your customers are the vendors. Is that correct, Alex? Guys like
no,
me.
my customers are the end users. So those are the ones that are my customers. So for example, the first contract I got was with the Navy SEALs, and they bought a bunch of slings, magazines, HK hooks, and all that. So I delivered it on time. Everything was great. And then now they keep on coming to me. They'll send me an email saying, "Hey, Alex, I need this." And then we already set the prices on it. So that's kind of like what my business model is all the end users that are on there. Because I mean, you have go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if there's so when they come to you for that order, for instance, the magazines, was there a specific vendor in mind, or did you go out and source 10 different vendors?
So like for example, on that one, they wanted a Magpul magazine, HK Magpul magazine, but they said, "Hey, look, you can bid on whatever one, just as long as it meet the same specs." So I went out and got actually the same magazine, but there was another one, for example, for slings. They wanted VTAC slings, so I went out and got them another one. Well, no, they didn't want the other one. They wanted the exact VTAC sling. So it just depends if the customer is happy with the product that you provide them, or they're already happy with that product that they've used.
So one other thought, just that you might kind of tuck away and chew on a little bit, is that I think there's probably also an opportunity out there once you have maybe how long you been doing this?
I've been doing it about 3 years. About 3 years.
I lost you. 3 years. Okay. So when you get, I mean, that's beginning to get some expertise, but I would respectfully submit that you'll have, twice as much when you're at 6 years. I think that, there's an opportunity that I see in this landscape to also potentially represent, whether that is, something that you open as a sideline to your existing business, because a lot of vendors have a very hard time figuring out how to sell to the government, and that's how ADS has grown into the myth that ADS is. But they went out and basically became, the firewall between vendor and a customer.
Yeah,
and I don't think you do a very good job at it from a vendor standpoint.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, because at first it was focused on the end users and all that, but I still have the vendors that want to work with me. So for example, my competition is ADS, so I do exactly what they do, but I also deal straight with the end user. So I have vendors that only work with me for set aside contracts, and I'm their guy for any contract that comes out for a certain set aside. So I don't know, like Blue Force Sling. They make a lot of slings. They use me as their set aside guy. So kind of like the same business model that ADS has is mine. But again, I'm like just starting. So of course I have to work with the end users more.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. I think that the best position you can be in is where you're actually, you have a foot in both sides, right? Because that way you can potentially have some manufacturers who might, even if you're really effective, take you on retainer, right? Which gives you a steady source of cash. And then on the other side, you can be doing what you're doing now, which is hustling and getting the customers. And as you build that customer base, presumably more and more of them will refer you to others within their commands and outside their commands, and so end up maybe diversified a little bit better, right? Where you can represent both sides. And I don't think it's a conflict of interest. It's on one side, vendors, you're really giving them expertise on how to sell to the government, and on the customer side, you're giving them the basic service of, you'll be the guy to go out and sort through the various vendors and get the best value that meets their specifications, and that you can get by their procurement officer, right? Because that's always the dilemma, is the customers want the best or cheapest, and therein lies like the misery of military contracting.
Yeah. Because I mean that's right. Because what I found out after doing this for a couple of years is the procurement officer, he has like 10 to 15 contracts sitting on his table. So what I've been like dealing with more now is going to talk to that procurement officer and say, hey, look, you have 10 to 15 contracts with 10 to 15 products. Let me take that headache off your hand. Give me those contracts, and I'll go find you the best price. And it's worked. I mean, it's like, hey, here you go, all this stuff, because I got about 10 to 15 more behind me. So that's one thing that I've been kind of starting to do a lot more.
Yeah, well, I think that makes sense. Sounds like you're on the right track. You just got to, always try to remember, like, approach something. If you find the problem, right? If you can identify the problem. For a particular customer, then you can focus on providing a solution to that problem, and that's really valuable. And so on the customer side, right, the as you referred to today, the customer, the units, well, they want a thing and need somebody to help them get it, right? On the vendor side, they want to sell a thing and they want help figuring out how to get customers to buy it, and procurement officers not to go with some cheaper version of what they're selling. So I mean, there's a couple of pretty clear problems that if you can provide focused solutions on both sides, man, you end up almost in a position to, some of the time you can just, the left hand can reach right across and hand to the right hand, stay focused in a particular area of products where you can genuinely build up expertise and relationships on both sides of the line.
Yeah.
You can find yourself in a pretty good spot.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, thanks for the questions, Alex.
10 cents worth of jackass opinion on that.
Yeah, no. That's, I mean, you're on the spot. I mean, some of that stuff you're telling me, it's like, you know, now I just got to just do it. That's it.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. Eric could not join us, so thank you to Alex, DeAndre, and to Jason for submitting their questions. Before we close out, Randy, do you have any kind of parting words of wisdom you want to send to our aspiring or our acting entrepreneurs?
Well, yeah, wisdom with a small W, not a capital W, because you know, the only way that everything I've learned literally came out of the SEAL teams, or I've learned over the last 12 years of bootstrapping my way up the ladder. And I think that kind of we hit on some important points on the call today, like stand for big enough vision that you see the growth opportunity in front of you, right? Because a lot of people make mistakes of overreaching too early. They lose focus and they fail on step one. Well, then that's the end of the story. Whatever their plan was for step 2, 3, and 4, don't make a damn step 1. So stand focused, but having a little bit longer view so that you always kind of know where you're heading, and you can develop yourself and position your brand appropriately. And you guys got to remember, there's going to be lots of false summits along the way, and there'll also be what you'll be tempted to view as failures along the way, and both of them are mirages, right? There's no failure if you learn from something that you tried and it didn't work out. The only failure is the one that you allow, and the one that you admit to yourself, and so long as you don't do that, and you view each one of these hiccups or speed bumps along the way as a lesson, maybe a costly one, which means you better damn well remember it and figure out how to take something actionable out of it going forward. The more costly it was, the more you better make sure that in the long haul. But I really believe that there isn't any failure unless you say there is. So I wish you guys the best of luck as you roll forward in your ventures and trying to build a great second chapter after the military.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Randy, and thank you to our EBB graduates. So I will close out here from the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University. This has been great. We'll make sure that your other classmates and NatCon participants get an opportunity to see. So we appreciate you all stepping up to the plate and asking some real good questions today. So thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
All right, guys. Thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, man. You too, brother. Peace.